I've done this 3 times already, but this time I'll be reanimating the animations of 8 of my subscribers. I'd have gone with 10, but I wouldn't want to make the video too long. As usual, another episode drops when we hit 2,000 likes on this one. Somehow, I still always get asked what app I use to animate. Well, if you're coming across this channel for the first time, I animate using Flip-a-Clip. It's a 2D animation app. Now, let's get right into reanimating. I asked you guys to send your animations over to my email in the channel bio, so for the first reanimation, I'll go with this animation from a subscriber named Kitty.
Perish, you pathetic being.
I enjoyed Kitty's submission. I low-key think Kitty cooked with this animation, but before I get into reanimating, I'll sketch up a short storyboard of what I think was happening in his animation. The fight is between 2 stickmen, black and gray. The gray stickman goes for a punch and misses. The black stickman dodges his punch and throws a sword at the gray one. Then the black stickman whooshes into the scene and punches away the gray stickman, and while the gray one is in the air, the black one unleashes a red exploding attack at him. It's a little bit complex, but with this I'd be done with the reanimation. Now that we have a storyboard, it's time to lock in. Just like in my subscriber's animation, the gray stickman swings but missed. The black stickman moved too fast for him to get his punch in. Next, I animated a close-up of the black stickman summoning a dagger. In Kitty's animation, I'm not exactly sure what weapon the black stickman used to stab the gray one, but since it's my reanimation, I'm going with a dagger. As always, animating the close-up was a little bit tricky because I had to animate fingers on the stickman's hand as he summons the dagger out of thin air, and everybody knows fingers are not the easiest things to draw. After the black stickman summons the dagger, he throws it and it pierces through the back of the gray stickman. I had to animate little gore at this part, showing some stickman flesh and blood. Without giving the gray stickman time to react from this attack, he whooshes into the scene at super speed and goes in for another strike. The black stickman was low-key evil for this. After he whooshes in, he pulls out the dagger and throws a heavy punch at the gray stickman, sending him flying across the screen. To pull off the animation for this part, I had to mess around with the spacing at just the right points to get an ease-in and ease-out type of timing. I also added the blur effect at the parts where he moves fast and a smear effect right before he lands the punch. You know, having to go through all this work for a 6-second animation made me appreciate animators and respect them even more. It's one of the most time-consuming forms of art. We all should appreciate it more often. After I had animated the black stickman removing the dagger and throwing a heavy punch, I created another layer and animated the gray stickman reacting to the punch. Most times when I'm animating a fight with weapons and gore, I prefer to do the character animation first, then add in the weapon later. I mean, how else would anybody animate it? And I don't know if you can tell, but this part took a lot of my time. Besides animating the weapon, I also had to animate the blood spill out while the dagger was yeeted across the screen. Tiny details like this really help to improve your animations, and personally, I enjoy animating tiny details sometimes. After the black stickman throws his punch and yeets the gray stickman across the screen, I animated him slowly recovering from the punch, sort of like a recoil after the heavy punch. For the next cut, just like in my subscriber's animation, the black stickman swings his arms and does a blast. Here's a replay of the part I'm reanimating. The only difference between mine and my subscribers is the color and the type of blast. In the original, it felt a lot more fluid, but mine was more of a pink round blast. Around this part, the reanimation was almost over. All I had to do was animate the explosion as the blast hits the gray stickman and throw in the background for the animation. After adding in a background I drew on ibis paint, I went back to animate the tiny grass movement on another layer, and I also drew the trees in the background. At this point, there's an explosion as the blast hits the gray stickman. Now, I could have decided to end the animation here and call it quits, but my brain for some reason figured it would be cool to animate the tiny grass particles moving to the wind of the explosion. This animation was really fun to reanimate. I took out my time to edit the animation and work on the sound design, and after about 2 days of reanimating and editing, this was the result.
Perish, you pathetic being.
の方、打ちしよう。死の方、打ちしよう。
For the second subscriber reanimation, let's take a look at this short simple animation sent by Francis. This animation is quite simple, a gray stickman blasting out fire. Of course, for my reanimation I'd add tiny changes, but overall I'll keep the idea the same, a simple stickman fire bending animation. First things first, I animated the stickman making the moves, just a simple punch to the ground. Immediately after, I drew in the backgrounds and got to animating the main star of the show, the fire effect. For the fire animation I wanted to try out a new style of animating fire. Usually I'd stick to one color for the base and another for the glow, but this time I wanted to play around with different color shades for the flames. First, I animated the base of the fire with a dark orange color, then I went back to add in brighter shades of orange at its center. Basically, the idea is that the fire is brighter at its hottest parts. The whole animation didn't take up much of my time. I was finished with the project in a couple of hours. I edited it, threw in some sound effects, and I was pretty much done. Before I show the result, here's a replay of my subscriber's animation. The previous animation was a little too simple. I didn't really have much to work with, but I'd like to say I was really impressed by the way my subscriber drew the flames on his animation. They looked really good. Anyways, now it's time to reanimate another subscriber's work. For the next subscriber reanimation, I'll be going with the video sent by Shake and Smooth. Pretty decent animation. The storyboard for this is quite simple as well. The black stickman charges up and blasts at the yellow stickman, but the blast gets blocked with a rock. Without wasting much time, let's get right into reanimating. I got right into the reanimation and started off with the black stickman blasting at the yellow stickman. For this move, I animated it with the ease in and ease out principle. He slowly lifts his hands, easing in, blasts out with force, then the recoil of his hands eases out. Next, I went on to animate the yellow stickman as he brings out the rock from the ground. Of course, before I animate the rock, I'll animate him making the move on a separate layer. I added heads to both of the stick figures and immediately got to animating the rock. This part was kind of tricky because I had to get the right perspective for the rock animation. Anyways, I think this angle was just right. I drew a couple of cracks on the body of the rock to make it look a lot better, and at the point where the rock shoots upwards, I animated a huge crack on the ground. To make this look even better, while the rock comes upwards, I animated tiny particles fall out of the rock to the ground. For the next cut, this would be the part where the blast slams into the rock. But first, I had to draw the stickman and the rock from a different perspective. Finally, I animated the red beam blast fly out of the stickman's hands and slam into the rock. As it slams into the rock, I had to animate a little shake to the rock and the stickman. This helps to sell the impact effect of the blast. I also animated tiny rock particles flying out of the rock as the blast slams into it. While animating, I thought about something else I could add to spice up the impact of the blast. Then it hit me. All it needed was impact frames. I spent a lot of time on the impact frames, but I think they came out decent, so it was kinda worth it. Once I was done with the impact frames, on a separate layer, I drew in the backgrounds. It took me a couple of minutes and I was done with the background. Finally, I cleaned up the animation, exported and edited it. As usual, before I show the results, let's rewatch my subscriber's animation. think the last one was really good. I liked the part where the rock came out of the ground. I got the animation right at that point. Now, it's time to reanimate another subscriber's animation. For this reanimation, we'll be working with a video sent from a subscriber named Brickfire. The animation here is quite easy to understand. The blue stickman runs around the red one, then punches and kicks him, but the red one recovers from the attack and flies forward, grabbing the blue stickman and dragging him across the ground as he flies by. Now that we have a short storyboard of the animation, let's get to animating. First, I'll animate the red stick figure in an idle position while the blue stickman charges up to run. Since I'm using 24 frames per second for this animation, I'll animate the charge up on 3s. It helps to add the delay right before the burst. As the blue stickman whooshes around, I decided to add the blur effect. It makes the speed animation look better. Animating the blue stickman running around in circles was kind of tiring, but I was able to push through, and just like the first, I also added the blur effect to this. After he was done whooshing around, I wanted him to appear really fast, facing the red stickman, winding up in slow motion right before he lands his punch. And of course, after winding up for that long, the punch was sure to be heavy. After animating the moves of the blue stickman in the first cut, I went back to add heads to the stickman in each frame. After I was done with that, I went on to animate the red stickman getting punched in the face and yeeting across the screen. Now for this cut, as the stickman flies backwards, I want him to slowly flip himself upright and blast forward, aiming back at the blue stickman. And just like we had talked about earlier, while he's flying forward, he swoops in and grabs the blue stickman. After finishing up the animation for that cut, I went on to add heads to the red stickman in each frame. In the next cut, I animated him as he whooshes past the screen and grabs the blue stickman by the head. After animating the red stickman, I went back to animate the blue stickman on a layer below. The reason I do this is to keep track of each individual character animation and to avoid mix-ups or wrong timing for each of the characters. At the part where the red stickman drags the blue stickman, I animated the blue stickman reacting back as his face was dragged across the ground. I also added the shaky effect as the red stickman flies at top speed. Next, I added in the heads and animated them as they whooshed past the screen. Now at this point, I felt like the animation needed a little more spice as they flew past the screen at super speed. Then I realized I could intensify the flyby effect by adding lava to the ground. Basically, the ground bursts out lava because they're flying past it at top speed. Before I got to animating the lava burst, I needed to draw a background, something to guide me while animating the lava. Now for the lava animation itself, I drew it like I was drawing fire. The lava was hottest at its middle, so I made it the brightest. I also animated the liquid part flowing out slowly at the sides, and to make it take up more screen time, I animated it on 3s. After I had finished animating the lava, I immediately got to drawing and animating a simple plain rocky background. At the part where the blue stickman gets dragged across the ground, I animated tiny rock particles flying out of the ground. After animating the rock particles, I decided to add some wind lines to show how fast they were flying. I drew them with white lines first, then I reduced the opacity of the lines to give the full effect. At the point where he flips backwards and plunges forward, I animated the fire flowing out his legs. Of course, I got lazy and used a single color for the flames. I couldn't use different shades like the previous animations. It took me some time to finish up the fire animation, but eventually I was done. I also added whoosh lines to the part where he falls backwards at top speed. With this, I was pretty much done with the reanimation. All I had to do was clean up the animation, export it, and edit it. Before I show the results, here's a quick replay of my subscriber's animation. We've reanimated the works of 4 subscribers, but up until this point, which was your favorite? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, it's time for the next reanimation. This time, we'd be working on something sent by a subscriber named Adam. This seems like it's a standoff, both characters charged up staring at each other. Nothing too complex, but of course, I'll add my twist to it. For the first cut, I wanted the camera to be in a different perspective, but I kept the original idea of the animation with the blue stickman laying on the ground and the red standing. After the blue stickman gets off the ground, he charges up, and just like in my subscriber's animation, I stuck with the original concept. After finishing up the character animation, I went back to add heads to each of the characters. At the point where the blue character charges up, I figured it would be best if I threw in some impact frames. It's not like I'm addicted to it or anything.
Yeah, boy.
The impact frames were time-consuming, and in general, they took me about 1 hour to finish up. After the impact frames, the aura waves coming out of the stickman was all I had to animate. And also, if there's anyone who wants to learn to animate things like this, be sure to check out the tutorial playlist on the channel. The link is in the description below. Once I had finished animating the aura waves, I decided to add those little whoosh lines going above it really fast. It helps to sell the effect that the waves are moving with speed. At this point, my animation was almost done. I threw in the background I had previously drawn on Ibis Paint and tweaked a few things at the aura animation part. Overall, this animation took me a couple of hours and I was done. Let me know in the comments if I cooked with my reanimation. But before I show the result, let's replay the animation I got sent. When I was checking my email for your submissions, I came across a very interesting animation submitted by Ortiz. I really enjoyed this one because of the way the tails on the red stickman were animated and the rocks floating around the black one. It's kinda similar to the previous animation. It's a standoff. I started off with the black stickman's character animation first. He was simply getting into a battle-ready stance. Bro hit the Jackie Chan stance. Once I was done with the black stickman, I got started on the red stickman. The red stickman gets into a battle-ready stance and his tails burst out the back. For the tails, I'd prefer to animate 3 different tails on different layers as well. I'll go with brown for the color of the tails. Animating the tails was kind of easy. I just had to imagine the motion of a rope flapping out with speed and slowing down mid-air. And just like in my subscriber's animation, while the tail is suspended upwards, I wanted them to slowly flow around. After animating the tails, I animated a close-up cut of both of the stickmen and called it quits from there. I exported the project and edited it. Before I show the result, let's replay my subscriber's animation. The 7th subscriber sent in something really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this as well. But before we get to reanimating, let's check out the video Galaxy sent to me. I really enjoy it when you guys mess around with the camera angles and perspectives in your animations. I guess that's why I can't help but reanimate this. Now, for the reanimation storyboard, it's basically a fight between two stickmen. The black one throws a very heavy punch that sends the red one crashing into a rock. I wasted no time in getting to work on the reanimation. First, I animated the black stickman walk into the scene before jumping off for the punch, and just like in my subscriber's animation, I made sure to switch camera angles. Finally, after walking into the scene, he takes a pause then bends in anticipation for a jump. Doing this shows him gathering momentum. After gathering enough momentum, he jumps off the ground and throws his super punch. When the punch lands, the red stickman gets yeeted across the screen and smashes into a mountain rock. I spent some time animating the dust from the explosion rise into the air. Once I had finished with the animation, I went back to work on the backgrounds. I drew in a simple plain rocky background for this animation. While drawing the backgrounds, at the point where the red stickman goes flying through the air, I had to make some adjustments, moving him slightly each frame to give the effect that he's flying through the air at top speed. Next, at the part where he hits the ground, I animated his body scraping off the rocks as he glides along with speed. I also animated the ground opening up as he goes by. At this point, the animation was almost over. I added some finishing touches and threw in a sky background to complement the plain ground I previously drew. Here's a rerun of my subscriber's animation. Finally, we've come to the end of this challenge. Before we jump into reanimating, I'd like to answer a simple question I get asked almost every time. Since I started this reanimation series, almost every week I see comments of people asking how to submit their animations. Well, to submit your animations, check out the email in the channel's bio and send it over through email. I don't use Discord for now, so that's the best way I can receive your animations. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's time to take a look at the video sent by a subscriber named Potato. Honestly, this one was kind of fun to watch, and it looks straightforward to animate as well. It's a fight between two stickmen, black and red. They both clash, but the black one gets flung into the sky and bombed mid-air by the red one. Bro was too violent with it. Now I know in the original animation, the black stickman is the one in the air, but while animating I forgot and mistakenly reversed the colors, so now it's the red stickman in the air and the black stickman throwing the grenade at him. On a separate layer, I drew a simple handheld grenade and added it to each frame at the close-up cut of the black stickman's hand. Forgive me if the drawing looks a little inaccurate. I didn't have time to look at the picture of an actual grenade before drawing, so I just drew it off the top of my head. After animating the grenade, I decided to add some impact frames right before the explosion. It took a lot of my time, but at the end, it was worth it. After the impact frames come the explosion. For the explosion, I used various shades of orange to make it pop since the explosion is hottest at its center. I used brighter shades at that point and a darker shade of orange for the outer part. I animated the explosion rapidly bursting out then slowly growing just like a typical explosion behaves. I had to animate it on 1s, 2s, and 3s to get this effect. I also slightly moved the frames to give a shaky effect to the explosion. Overall, it took me almost 2 hours to finish up the explosion animation. After I finished up with the explosion, I went on to add backgrounds to the animation, clean up some mistakes, and add a couple of finishing touches. With this, I was pretty much done. I exported and edited the project. Before I show the results, here's a replay of the animation I got sent. Well mates, that's all for this video. I really appreciate every single one of you rocking with the series and showing support in any way. Don't forget to slap the like button, subscribe to the channel and check out this playlist for more videos like this.